In this video, we'll go over the various forms of standard transition, which involves the use of both legs together. The most common form of standard transition is the punch, which is prevalent in most every tumbling pass. A punch is found whenever the setup lands on both feet simultaneously, and the takeoff of the next trick begins from both feet, which is a jump called pop. When observing a tumbling pass, keeping an eye on the setup technique can help you determine its type of landing. For example, round-off is a cartwheel that lands on both feet, so connecting into a back handspring becomes a punch transition. A punch also works when changing direction, so long as you're still connecting a landing on both feet to a pop takeoff. For example, a front handspring with a punch transition into a back handspring. If you did use a cartwheel instead of a round-off, you'd be creating a different transition called pop. This one is equally common in tricking and is actually named after the takeoff. To create a pop transition, you need to land the setup one foot at a time as opposed to on both feet together, and again you'll enter into a pop takeoff. On that spider setup, we have a complete landing on the left leg first, then when the right catches up, there's a pop transition into the back handspring. The cart tricks tend to use the pop transition, as the cartwheel lands right then left. When followed by a pop takeoff into a front or Arabian, for example, you get a cart pop front. The next question then might be, what happens if you reverse those properties to land on both feet but take off from one leg at a time? This creates a transition called reverse pop, and it's the opposite of a pop transition. The landing happens on both feet, and the takeoff one foot at a time in any order without a change in position. So this round-off could be used to enter into a punch back handspring, but in this case I've added a reverse pop transition into another round-off in the opposite direction. The front handspring that lands on both feet can reverse pop transition into a round-off or cartwheel, since those techniques each begin from one leg at a time. Note this is different from a front handspring step-out, which lands one foot at a time. That would instead create a sequential transition called vanish. Finally, you may notice a caveat about not changing position. There is a sort of catch-all term called bound transition, which you can use for any time the others are used while changing position. So if you either have a standard landing on both feet and/or a pop takeoff from both feet, but you make some adjustment in between, it can become a bound. Here we see a front handspring that changes from front side to back side using a bound to enter into a back handspring. In this example, the setup is a round-off, but a change to front side for butterfly can be counted as a bound transition. See if you can detect which transition is being demonstrated in the following clips. They all share a common use of both feet together somewhere, and over time, as you become more proficient with recognizing the setups, the transitions should become more clear as well.